Hi, everybody. I'm Councillor Glenn Gower, and welcome to tonight's Councillor Chat. It is November 22nd. I am joined, as always, by Jordan Moffat. Good evening, Jordan.
Hello, Glenn. Hello, everybody. How are you doing?
Doing well tonight. So tonight we've got kind of a focus Councillor Chat. Usually we do these once a month, and we open it up to questions about anything and everything. But tonight we're going to focus on local planning and development files. And just like every other time we do this, we'll take your questions over the course of the whole evening here. So if you have a question and you're on Zoom, you can use the Q&A panel to ask a question, and Jordan will be looking for questions. And if you're on Facebook, you can type in a question as a comment on the Facebook Live link, and we'll be watching for those questions as well. If you happen to be watching this after the fact, you can leave a comment on Facebook or on YouTube with a question, and we'll be happy to answer you, or you can send an email to glenn.gower@ottawa.ca. So that's the plan. Please send your questions. So maybe, Jordan, if you could just give an overview of what we've done to prepare for tonight's meeting as we get set to go here.
Yeah, well, what we've done is we've taken a look at all the active and maybe recently past development files in Stittsville. And so it's a pretty long list. I didn't actually end up doing any count, but there's a lot of stuff going on in Stittsville. And so we're going to go through the development applications pretty much one by one and just talk about them tonight. If you have any questions about any specific development, then we can interrupt the going through the list to talk about it and go through your questions. But otherwise, we'll just be chatting about what is actually being developed in Stittsville, or what is proposed to be developed, stuff that hasn't actually been approved yet, but the developers have applied for site plan applications or zoning bylaw amendments or official plan amendments.
All right, so I'm going to turn on the map cam here, and I need to do a few things to get set up. So there's the map. Look at that. It's old school. I've got my dry erase markers ready to go. So I'm going to pin that map. I'm going to turn off my own camera here, and I'm going to reposition myself here so I can see the map and I can see what's going on. But everything look good so far from your end, Jordan?
Yes, it does. I see map cam and your markers all set up, ready to be drawn.
Perfect. All right. Well, I'm ready when you are. What do you want to start with?
Well, how about we start up in? Let's start with the ones that are kind of brand new. We got a few statutory public meetings and public info sessions about stuff that just came down the pipeline. So let's begin near Stittsville Main Street at 37 Wildpine Court.
37 Wildpine. All right. Well, I'll situate people on the map. So Hazeldean Road is across here, and then Stittsville Main Street is over here. And if we head down just past the Browns, past Ravenscroft, we end up on Wildpine. And yes, there's a development site right about here on Wildpine. So this one, they need some minor zoning amendments to change some of the setbacks, lot sizes, and so on. But it's an interesting thing here is they're also proposing to connect Ravenscroft and Wildpine Court. Ravenscroft ends in a cul-de-sac, Wildpine ends in a cul-de-sac. And as part of this application, the proposal is to connect the two, which is a long-standing plan going back to Goulburn Township days, just to help with circulation of garbage trucks and snowplows and things like that. So kind of an interesting aspect of that application. Another thing that's interesting here is it's adjacent to a natural area along Pool Creek. And so it's has some extra oversight from the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority to make sure we understand the implications for the floodplain. So a few different things there than a normal application. And Jordan, there's a development application coming up. What was the date again?
The meeting is going to be on December 6th. That's a statutory public meeting that the city's putting together. All the Zoom details are on our Facebook page, or they're about to be on our Facebook page. They're on our website right now.
So what I'm hoping to do, one thing with this one is to pilot a construction management plan. And the idea here is to, it's something that's never been done before, but it's to improve the communications and just the overall supervision of how construction and development happens for projects. Some builders are great, some builders are more challenging than others. And this is an idea of how to better coordinate all the different trades and services and stages the construction. So it's something we're exploring as a condition of their site plan, should this be approved.
I'm just getting some feedback here about the video live stream. I think your audio is coming through your computer. And so we may not be seeing Matt Kim on Facebook. Let me just do a refresh here and see if we can fix that, Glenn.
Well, that's all good, because we're trying to keep the map cam on, but my camera off. So the focus is on the map itself.
Yes, the issue is that because you're speaking through your computer, it's registering your computer as the active speaker view.
Oh, I see. So it's not showing the pinned camera view. Is that what's going on?
I believe so. Yes, that's right.
Well, what if I do this? What if I do hide non-video participants? And then maybe we could hide you as well, Jordan. I think I can do that. Or if you can stop your video. And now I think the only thing people should see on the screen is the map, but they should be able to hear you and I still. So hopefully this is working from a technical perspective.
I'm just refreshing Facebook now and we'll see.
All right. Well, why don't we keep going and hopefully that solved the problem by isolating the map cam there.
Okay, so let's go further north on Carp Road, 1037 Carp Road. There's a 2-story office building site plan control application.
There is. It's a really small one. So it's for kind of a office commercial space on Carp Road. I was actually out on the weekend delivering some letters to neighbors who back onto it over here on Lloyd Alex. So yeah, we do have a meeting coming up for that one, but a fairly small lot and a pretty small minor commercial / office type of use there.
I have bad news about MapCam. It's not showing up still, Glenn.
It's not showing up. Well, this is interesting.
I thought the pin trick would have worked too.
Well, let me try something, because I can go to the audio from the map cam, I believe. So just one second. I'm going to mute this audio. Jordan, I wonder if that solved the problem. When we went, when we recorded, MapCam had yet to accept permission to share the map. So it's, I think it's been fixed now.
Okay, I'm a bit delayed on Facebook, so there's some built-in tension here.
All right. Want to make sure we have MapCam before we go any further. Hopefully this all makes sense.
Yes, to the people listening, MapCam is a laminated map that Glenn is drawing on to give everyone a visual idea of where these development applications are actually happening. And no, I'm still seeing, well, Glenn, try talking, see what happens next.
Well, I can try talking, sure, and see what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I wonder what I can see on Facebook as well here. Otherwise, what we may do is start it over, or I have one more thing I can try if this hasn't worked. But
no, I'm just getting, for some reason, I'm still just getting your name and a black screen.
Well, that is super interesting. That is super interesting. Okay, well, tell you what, I'm going to mute here. If we unmute MapCam, is this our third time lucky here? Mm-hmm.
Recording in progress.
Whoa.
Bit of feedback there.
There's feedback there indeed. Aha. Still feedback?
Have you muted your computer? And now you have to unmute MapCam.
I have now unmuted MapCam. Now I wonder what viewers on Facebook or Zoom are seeing at this point.
We are seeing MapCam on Facebook.
Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness. All right. Well, for folks who have joined us, we've talked about Wildpine, which is this big blotch of blue over here. The development site is this small area, and I use this square to annotate or to denote the natural area. And then 1037 Carp Road, which is relatively new, just came in the last little bit, is over here, this little circle here. So I think we're caught up now. We can keep going.
That's right. And 1037 Carp Road, we are hosting a public information session on November 30th. Again, the information's on our Facebook and our website. It's a great opportunity for you to meet the developer who's applying for the developer application and meet the city staff and get your feedback and questions out there live.
Perfect.
Let's move down to 360 Bobolink Ridge.
360 Bobolink. Okay, so here's how we'll get there. If we're coming off of Carp Road, we'll come down Hazeldean Road here. We'll go down Iber Road. We'll take a little jog on Abbott. This is the roundabout in front of Paul Demaray's school. And then if we come down here just before Bobolink is this property known as 360 Bobolink right here. So yes, this is right now it's a proposal for apartments and a small commercial area in that space. And we've just confirmed the date for the public meeting for that. What's the date, Jordan?
That's December 15th.
Okay, so coming up in about 2 or 3 weeks. This one is, it's just been submitted. I've raised a number of concerns. We actually met with the builder again last week. I have a lot of concerns about this one. One is I'd like to see a lot more commercial on the site. I'd also like them to bury the parking. Right now, it's all surface parking. And when you look at the renderings that they have in their development applications, it's very asphalt heavy. You might remember earlier this year, we're going to talk a little bit later actually about 1000 Robert Grant Avenue, which is in a parcel here. This corner, and I realize that we're falling off the map a little bit here. This area here along Robert Grant between Bobolink and Abbott Street and the Hydro Corridor, it's zoned as arterial Main Street. And in the Fernbank master plan, the Fernbank community design plan, this area was targeted for mixed use. And the idea was that it would have a mixture of both residential and commercial. Well, they can do either one. They're not required to do one or the other. And what we're seeing is there's a very weak market for commercial right now and retail. There's a very strong market though for residential. So Le Pin, if you remember earlier this year, they have a proposal for apartments with probably a little bit of retail, like a coffee shop or yoga studio on the bottom. Now, this group here has come in with a proposal for mostly apartments with a small bit of commercial. There's still this middle piece of property that there's no application for. So it's possible that could be a more commercial retail oriented development. This is also where the village green would be located in between these two parcels of land. But anyhow, this one's quite early in the proposal stage, and we've raised a number of concerns, and I'm sure residents will have a lot of concerns they want to share on that meeting on December 15th as well.
So just to clarify there, because that's something we've heard a lot about, the village green is still in play. It's just in that undeveloped parcel right in between.
Let me draw it here as a village green. It's not going to be entirely green space, but the developer, whoever owns this land, when they decide to develop it, will have to reserve some of it for the village green, kind of a gathering space for the community there. We have an article on the website about that. If you search for village green on my website, you'll see a bit of an overview of what that village green actually means.
Okay, let's go back to Maple Grove Road. We're back north. We got 38 townhomes at 1927 Maple Grove.
Okay, so if we're traveling north here, we'll go back up Iber, we'll cross over Hazeldean Road, we'll head down Huntmar Drive past the Food Basics through Fairwinds. Then we're going to turn left here if we were cycling or driving onto Maple Grove. And 1927 Maple Grove is a very small little parcel here. And I think it's for the proposals for 27 townhomes. Is that right, Jordan?
I have 38.
38 townhomes. Okay. A very small development, townhome similar to what you now see along Maple Grove. There's a series of lots, and I think we're going to talk about them tonight, kind of at where Fairwinds North currently ends and heading west. There are a bunch of lots that are estate lots. And there's some in here as well. And slowly each one of those is being bought up and redeveloped. And most of them are being proposed with types of homes and housing that's similar to what you already see in this Fairwinds area. So a lot of townhomes and some singles and so on, but mostly townhome development. So 1927 is a smaller one of those along here. There's some more along Maple Grove, right, Jordan? You've got the list there?
Yeah, that's right. So we can move on to those ones next, but let's start at the east end with 1620 Maple Grove.
So 1620, so if we head east, 1620 is in around here in a new Richcraft subdivision called Mapleton. And so they have some, I believe it's stacked townhomes or back-to-back townhomes. That'll be the first phase of the Mapleton development. I was actually over there a week or two ago and pretty surprised to see how far some of these have, some of the homes have progressed here already, but the townhomes are what's on the currently being reviewed for approval just off of Maple Grove. And then this will be a large subdivision from Richcraft that is in behind like the Value Village and the Lowe's and the Winners Plaza, that type of thing. For a number of years, it was completely on hold while there was floodplain remediation done along the Carp River. And so now that that's all completed, they can proceed with some of the development in this neighborhood. They also needed a new sewage pumping station completed, which is, I think, around right here. You've probably seen a big municipal building. So now that those pieces are in place, Richcraft is now applying with some development proposals in that piece of land along Maple Grove.
And just to loop quickly back to 1927 Maple Grove that we were talking about with the 38 townhomes, we'll have a statutory public meeting hosted by the city. That hasn't been scheduled yet, but keep your eyes out for on Glenn's newsletter if you don't subscribe on that yet. We'll have all the information there and on the website. Yeah,
I think the information just went live on that last week. Just a heads up to the community that was posted, maybe the week before, but it's the newest development application that we have for sure.
Let's get to Maple Grove. We got all these addresses that look like years. So we're going back to 1837, and there's a bit of a historical connection with 1837 Maple Grove, as it sounds.
Yeah, 1837 Maple Grove. It's in roughly around this area. People know that location as the old stone house, the old Harton family stone house. That's owned by Mattamy. They have demolished a newer home that's just to the west of that stone house, but they are intending to keep and renovate the stone house as part of the development there to be used for an office, perhaps a law office or an insurance office or a small hair salon or spa or something. Again, they're proposing some townhomes here, typical along Maple Grove, a lot of townhome developments. And we're still in the review process. So I believe the city's already provided one round of feedback from all the different stakeholders in the community. And then Mattamy has come back with a revision and some changes to their plan as a response to those comments. So those will be reviewed and making sure that different issues have been addressed.
And then further down the road, 1869 Maple Grove. That's smaller than 1837, just 17 units, towns and semis.
Yeah, very, very similar to this block here. I think it's, I'm not drawing these to scale whatsoever, but again, it's a small lot off of Maple Grove with some townhomes proposed. And what's the status of that one, Jordan? I can't remember if that one was draft approved or if it's still going through the resubmission.
This one's 1869. Yeah, it's passed. It was passed in August, so it's in the appeal period, and it was passed by council and planning committee. Okay,
and we still don't have any idea of when construction's starting on this one. So there's still obviously some legal things that they're working out with the city and building permits and so on before they're able to begin there.
So we're getting pretty close to the western edge of Maple Grove, not quite at the western edge. Of course, the western edge is going to look a bit different with 1981 Maple Grove.
1981
at the very end.
Yeah, for sure. So 1981 Maple Grove, basically it's along Maple Grove, right up against the future roadway for Stittsville Main Street. It's owned by Claridge, so it's kind of across the street, I guess we could say, from the Bryanston Gate neighborhood. So roughly around this area here. It was submitted back in 2018. I think it just goes to show how long this approval process takes. There's a few issues that makes this one a big difference. One is Claridge will be required to build the road link from Maple Grove to Stittsville Main Street. Stittsville Main Street, by the way, eventually will continue up around here and will connect up to Robert Grant and the Palladium eventually. But when Claridge builds this subdivision, they'll be required to build an intersection here to give an alternate exit to vehicles. We're working with Claridge around some concerns that the community has raised around traffic access, for example, on Alon Street. And also, I want to make sure that we're understanding the traffic impact of additional vehicles going down Stittsville Main Street, particularly in front of St. Stephen's School right there. The other thing that I raised on behalf of residents was, although on the north side of Maple Grove Road, they're going to be putting in full stormwater sewers and a sidewalk in front of their development, what they are not required to do is to urbanize the south side of the road. And so we went to Claridge and we asked if they could find a solution to add at least some kind of a pathway or a safer spot for pedestrians and cyclists on the south side of Maple Grove. And they have agreed to do that. So that's part of the next submission that we're waiting for from Claridge, that we're going to review and make sure it meets all the requirements and meets everything that we're looking for on that. For a long time, I mentioned this 1981 Maple Grove. It was submitted in 2018. So we're nearly like 3.5 years, I think, since it was submitted. For a long time, all of these new subdivisions along Maple Grove were on hold because of this intersection right here at Huntmar Maple Grove. It was operating close or beyond capacity. So all of these subdivisions were on hold. Next spring, this intersection is going to be upgraded. So once it's upgraded with more turning lanes and safer infrastructure, that will provide the conditions where these development applications can move forward. So we've frozen them until we're certain that this Huntmar Maple Grove is going to be upgraded before they can go ahead.
So we have a lot of information on that one about roads. So I'll just quickly plug that we have some information on the Huntmar Maple Grove intersection improvements on our website that you can read about. And we have, you can learn more about the Stittsville Main Street extension. They're conducting an environmental assessment, they being the city right now. And you can learn about that on our website and the city's website, provide your input. And if you want to know more about these road projects like Stittsville Main being extended, meeting up with Robert Grant, you can watch a YouTube video that Councillor Gower and I just did last week or the last couple of weeks on the Councillor Gower's YouTube page, which is, what is that, Glenn? Probably just Councillor Glenn.
Yeah, if you search for Councillor Glenn on YouTube, you'll find all the archive video, including developing stories is what you want to be looking for. We've had lots of good feedback on that so far.
And let's do the last one on Maple Grove. The last active development application is 1919 Maple Grove.
Okay, so this is an interesting one too. Sorry, Jordan, I interrupted. What were you going to say?
I was going to say this is an interesting one too. You took the words right out of my mouth.
Interesting if you're a planning nerd like us, I guess. It's kind of a T-shaped development on Maple Grove Road, and it kind of encompasses a couple others here. They have some townhomes proposed. It's a proposal by the family that actually owns the home there now. They live there now, but it includes a proposal for a low-rise apartment building. That said, after some back and forth and some review, they are not planning to move ahead on that apartment building until Stittsville Main Street is actually built out, and that's still quite a number of years away. So it's still not approved yet. It's still being reviewed, but it would be phased so that they build the townhomes first, matching the neighborhood, and then if in the future they do the apartment piece, it would be quite a ways into the future. But again, that's still going through the lengthy list of reviews and approvals that are required before it can get the green light to move ahead.
So the development at first, if it gets approved, would be semis and towns close to Maple Grove, and then as you go further north, they'll be phased to be later with the
that's right. Yeah.
I'm just going to pause before we go to our next segment. We have a question from Facebook, and let you have a glass of water while I read it to you. I mean, it's basically just a question about the Carp Road landfill, the West Carleton Environmental Center, I believe it's called. Not exactly a development question, but that's something we dealt with in the last few months. So Glenn, what do you have to tell our viewers about the Carp Road landfill and the update on that?
Well, you can just locate it up here on the map. Basically, the Carp landfill, the expansion of the West Carleton Environmental Center, it's operated by Waste Management. The province gave them their environmental approval several years ago. And the city, the last step of the approval process was establishing a site plan, basically a series of conditions designed to protect the surrounding community, mitigate any issues. One of those was a host community agreement, which among other things limits the area in Ontario where they can accept waste from, and also sets out host compensation fees. So that's been finished. What has to happen though before it opens up is they have to do some upgrades to Carp Road to handle the truck traffic coming off the Queensway north on Carp Road. And so that's got to happen as a condition before they can open. A few people have asked me, when do I think the landfill will open? I really have no idea because Waste Management hasn't given any clear indication as to when they plan on opening. So it'll take, I'm sure, at least a year or two to get those roads upgraded. So it could be quite a while before they actually expand the landfill.
Now, this resident has some concerns about it and seems to want it stopped. How could they go about doing that, or who should they contact, and who really makes the decision on that sort of thing right at this point?
You contact the Ministry of Environment at the Ontario level. The individual who's concerned about that, send me an email, glenn.gower@ottawa.ca. I'd be happy to send you some background and some of the contact info in terms of the provincial approval process. But yes, I'd be happy to share that info.
Okay, excellent. Let's move on to just south of Mayfair Road, but we'll stay north of Hazeldean for now. How about that?
Okay.
We'll go with 195 Huntmar, the big development.
Yeah, so Fairwinds North ends here, and 195 Huntmar. It's quite a large piece of land that kind of goes behind the police station along Palladium Drive. And this is very much not to scale and not super accurate on my drawing, but it's quite a large piece of land north of Fairwinds North. Some of it's underway. In fact, I think their first home closings are this month, early next month. So this has all been approved here, but there's some homes here. There's potentially a future car sales up in the north end. There's some retail area, I believe, as well. A site for a future public high school. So we just have construction underway for the Stittsville Public High School, expected to open in 2023. If in the next decade or more, the public board needs another high school, they have land up here that's set aside, and also land up here for a future district park for the north part of Stittsville. So lots going on in that development, but the approval for the homes has been given, and those are underway. And it's why the roundabout was built at this, as you go out towards the on-ramp to the Queensway, there's a new traffic circle there, a roundabout, and it's to give access to the homes that are here. Eventually they'll have access through Stittsville Main Street, through Jackson Trails, and through the future Robert Grant Avenue. But for now, they required that access off of Palladium Drive through the roundabout.
And there won't be any access from those local streets on Fairwinds North, is that right?
That's right. So if you live like on Maestro or Cayman, any of the streets here at the edge of Fairwinds North, there will be pedestrian and cycling connections heading northward, but there will be no road connections for vehicles heading north from Fairwinds. Also on this 195 Huntmar, they were using an access road that crosses over here. They are no longer using that access road for construction now that the roundabout's open, and they blocked that off from construction vehicles. So I know that was quite an impact of dump trucks and construction vehicles for several weeks for people living in Fairwinds North, but now that's been wrapped up, thankfully.
And then just across the street is 130 Huntmar.
Yeah.
And this one has about half as many units, about 600-ish units. So that's about half of what the 195 Huntmar was, and it backs onto the future LRT route.
Yeah, so light rail will be coming down basically this corridor here. And I haven't drawn this very well, but essentially this 130 Huntmar, it's an Urbandale development. It'll be hugging right up against light rail. They have some space set aside on Maple Grove for local commercial, like a small retail that would serve the community. And they have a mix of townhomes and low-rise apartments and so on. And again, this is going through a lengthy approval process. I think one of the things here that they're working on is some of the infrastructure, like water and sewer, working out some issues there. So still going through the development process. They'd be building as part of this, I guess it goes all the way over here. Robert Grant Avenue, Urbandale would be building the segment of Robert Grant Avenue that kind of crosses through their site there. So that's another part of their development.
And then a smaller, it's it's passed, it's not an active development application anymore at Brigantine and Camden. We heard about this earlier this year, and then it was just passed, I think, in September.
Yeah, so folks may know the stormwater management pond that's been here. That was a temporary stormwater pond, just like the temporary one that was here. Both of those ponds are being decommissioned. Well, this one already has been decommissioned, and there's a development happening. This is one of the last phases of the Fairwinds community. Now that there's a pumping station and better stormwater infrastructure that's online in the community, they can decommission this pond. And it's always been the plan in Mattamy's master plan for Fairwinds to build homes here. So they're building some townhomes where the stormwater pond is. They have the approvals they need from a zoning and site plan perspective. And we anticipate they're going to start building that next year. And we're going to try to get Mattamy to do a meeting with the community so people have an understanding of the construction impact, the hours of work, and contact information for any construction related issues.
So now go down Brigantine and make a left on Huntmar, and we'll talk about 21 Huntmar.
21 Huntmar. So just kind of behind the keg along Huntmar, there's a development proposal for a two-phased apartment building. Is it 5 stories or 6 stories, Jordan, on
Oh,
Huntmar?
that's a really good question. The amount of stories. I have the units, but I don't have the stories ready. Give me a moment, Glenn.
I have a feeling it's 6 because Welling's next door is 5. And if memory serves, it was 1 story more than Welling's.
Your memory is serving you very well today. It's a 6-story building.
Okay.
2 6-story buildings.
So this is going through, again, the development review process. We've had a public meeting on this one. A couple things on this. So it'd be built in 2 phases, 2 6-story apartment buildings. They would be building a signalized intersection with food basics. It's really a pretty hairy intersection to turn out of sometimes. So they'd be building a signalized intersection there. And we're also working with them to get some improvements done to Huntmar between the roundabout and the food basics entrance, just to make it safer for pedestrians. So something we're working on. One thing I think you'll start to notice along Hazeldean Road, because it's so close to this future LRT station, this is the phase 3 LRT, probably still a decade away, but we're already seeing the impact of that, is you are gonna see more apartments and higher density type developments close by around Hazeldean Road. So if you were to draw, a kilometer or 2 in each direction, it's likely we're going to see more apartment and taller buildings along Hazeldean, like we see all over the city where we have transit stations, whether it's rail or whether it's bus.
Well, that might be a good time to talk about the redevelopment of the potential redevelopment of 5705 Hazeldean. That's the shops at Fairwinds.
With where the food basics is, basically. Yes, they have an application. They'd like to add a couple new retail stores to the, like, one would be between Food Basics and Toys R Us. There's an empty space there, so they'd like to build a retail. They haven't revealed what the store would be, but they have space to build. And then another one along Huntmar itself, roughly between where the Shoppers is and the Food Basics is. But again, you know, this is anywhere where you see along roads like Hazeldean Road or Eagleson Road or Merivale Road or Carling Avenue, where you've got these big box stores with large parking lots. The long-term planning is, yes, for now, they're big box stores with large parking lots, but over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you're going to start to see those redeveloped with different forms of building, and some homes, some retail, some office space, and just be how the community matures. And in some ways, I think the pandemic might have accelerated that a little bit, just because with more online shopping, the big box store business has suffered a little bit. So we might see that process of regenerating, renewing large parking lot spaces and big box stores speeding up over the next few years.
So Glenn, I'm seeing a lot of blue marker on the north side of your map. We got a lot of lines, some boxes, some hash marks, whatever. We got no blue further south of Hazeldean, but right further south where you have that station, there's not even existing roads. So let's start right there. 5618 Hazeldean is a big empty block right where your marker is now.
I've marked here, this is our future light rail station / transit station. Maybe I'll do, how about some orange here? So I'm gonna mix up colors. There's a big piece of land here that's known as the Cavanagh Lands. I know this is upside down, but hopefully it all makes sense. The Cavanagh Lands. It's an old landowner that's owned this for decades, and they've recently had approval for a plan of subdivision. So that sets out the layout of all the roads and so on. One of the significant things in this subdivision is the route of Robert Grant Avenue. So right now, Robert Grant, as you probably know, goes from Fernbank Road up to Abbott Street, and then it just ends. The next phase, we're hoping to have shovels in the ground by this time next year, would be from Abbott Street to Hazeldean Road. And then you'd also see connections. For example, we've got Cranesville Road here, coming out of the Abbotsville North neighborhood. That would connect up here. And then there are a whole number of other roads that crisscross and create a new subdivision. So, you know, you see the layout of streets in Abbotsville or in Fernbank Crossing, Westwood. You're going to see a similar layout of streets and different types of homes and housing in these Cavanagh lands. We got them to reserve a mixed use area, which would mean it wouldn't be entirely residential. There'd be some commercial along Hazeldean Road and potentially some commercial in this part of the community as well. Remember earlier we talked about the lack of commercial in the central part of Fernbank. We wanted to keep the options open through the zoning to allow some commercial here as well. So this is all going through the review and approval process. That the master plan for this subdivision has been approved, but the details in terms of what actually gets built is still to come.
Okay, sticking with Fernbank, we're going to be doing Fernbank for the next little while, talking about the build out of the community design plan. It's going based on the plan, all these next few parcels that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Tartan Lands at 6015 Fernbank.
Tartan Lands, let's see, am I still on the map? Oh, good. Excuse me. Yeah, the Tartan Lands are right up against, actually you can see the road network is already drafted in here on the map. The Tartan Lands are basically right up against Caribou, Samuel Mann, John Sidney, and Liard. They had approval on this going back to 2015, I believe it was. They had all the approvals they needed. And then they came back and they said, we want to change a few blocks where we had singles plan. We want to change them to townhomes, just recognizing with rising house costs and the market demand, there's less demand for single homes and more demand for townhomes. So that was a change they asked for. Worth noting too, part of this development, although the original Fernbank master plan didn't have it planned out, through this development, we've secured a linear park. It's about 10 meters and it's along the edge, kind of a buffer between the new development and the existing development, where there's going to be a pathway and some existing cedar trees are there, and then some new trees will be replanted. Not unlike the kind of forest path buffer that we already have between the Forest Creek and Amberwood communities. If anyone's taking the trails there, that'll be a similar thing over here. And the plan is to have this trail or this pathway connect up through the Kemp Woodland to the Trans-Canada Trail. So it'll be a nice walking path, recreation path for people to enjoy there. So the status of this Tartan Lands is the site plan is still being finalized and reviewed. So still a few months left in review before that can be approved and construction can start, but they have started prepping the site with some tree removal. There'll be some blasting next spring and so on, just preparing the land for future development.
Yeah, often when the first draft of this was several years ago, and so when it gets reviewed, often the change is to update it based on market conditions. So you're seeing a bit more townhomes than there were the first time this came through the applications process a few years ago.
There have been a couple sites like that where it was originally approved and then the builders have come back and said, we're not seeing as high demand for singles, we're seeing more demand for towns. And in general, city planners and myself are supportive of that. We see the huge demand for housing in Ottawa and the rate that housing prices are going up because of that lack of supply. So, as long as there aren't any significant impacts on natural areas, as long as we're understanding traffic impacts and impacts on neighbors, in general, it's something that we're supportive of in terms of switching out some singles for the towns there.
So just immediately to the west of the Tartan Lands is what's called Shea Village at 5969 and a few other addresses, Fernbank.
I think you said east, but it's actually just, I think you said west, but it's actually a little bit east.
Pardon me, I meant, you knew what I meant. That's good.
Yeah. So this is Shea Village.
East of Westwood.
People have probably seen the signs up in that neighborhood recently. But the big marketing sign, it's Patent Homes, Shea Village. It's really in the final stages, detail stages. Jordan, you and I think we have a call with the developer tomorrow. We're kind of quibbling over road design. We're looking to have the roads built for 30 kilometer an hour rather than 40 kilometer an hour. And we have some disagreement over the best design to achieve that. So really getting down to the details on that one, but it's probably nearing approval. And I know they'd like to start building pretty soon. This is also where they're building the new trunk sewer. So we have Cope Drive. Cope Drive, it ends at Robert Grant now, but eventually, actually it crosses Robert Grant. There's some neighborhoods under construction. It's going to connect up with Shea Road and then loop down and connect with Edenwild. It's also the route of a new trunk sewer. So a lot of the blasting that people have been hearing in the south part of Stittsville over the last few weeks has been related to excavation and construction of a new sewer line over there. So,
and if viewers are interested in what we were just talking about, 30 kilometer hour streets, what does that mean? The city just released a design toolbox on what you can expect on a street that's designed to limit cars to 30 kilometers an hour. So what the actual design interventions are. We see a lot of temporary traffic calming stuff in Stittsville. This is a design toolbox that includes that, but also some permanent measures for local streets.
Yeah, in the past, a lot of roads were designed for 40 kilometers an hour, and we get concerns all the time from residents about the speed of vehicles. So we're trying to design them at 30 kilometers an hour for local streets from the get-go, and for busier streets, probably 40 kilometers an hour. And still provides the capacity and the flow that people need to get around the community, but makes it so much safer for pedestrians and cyclists.
Okay, let's keep moving east to 5725 Fernbank. That's the second phase of the Westwood development.
I always get mixed up with all these addresses on Fernbank, but yes, basically, I'm not drawing exactly to scale or location, but there's a number of big parcels of land in this south part, south of the future Cope Drive. Westwood is well underway in this north part of the community. And next up will be the various other phases of Westwood. So 5725 is a future phase of the Westwood development, very similar in size and scale and in scope of the existing neighborhoods in Westwood, and Fernbank Crossing.
We had an application at 360 Bobolink that we talked about earlier. So let's do 620 Bobolink Ridge now. This is stacked townhomes from Richcraft. It's just about 80 units right off Embankment Street.
Yeah, I just erased some lines to make it clearer. So 620 Bobolink is right here, some stacked townhomes. Again, in the master plan for the Fernbank neighborhood, the plan was to have along the Robert Grant corridor, apartments, condos, low rise. So I think people are probably familiar with that on the east side of Robert Grant. And so on the west side, there would be some stacked townhomes and back-to-back townhomes. I think they've sent us their second resubmission. So they sent in their first submission. We received public comments on that and comments from all sorts of different departments of the city. We provided them with those comments, and then they've come back with a resubmission and an answer to those. So that's what's being reviewed now. One of the chief concerns on this one from residents is traffic. Excuse me. They're proposing 2 entrances onto Embankment for this building. And we've had some residents ask, well, could they not provide a exit onto Cope or onto Bobolink? So it's one thing we've asked the builder to evaluate for us and tell us why they believe Embankment is the better option then.
We just had a question based on the last topic from Neil Mack on Facebook. He asks, more townhomes equals more density, correct?
It usually does, yes.
Okay. And we'll have more information on that. We're going to do a Q&A or an FAQ document about these development applications, and we'll talk a bit about the density plan for the Fernbank Community Design Plan. Last one on the list for Fernbank, or no, sorry, we have 2 more. There's a similar one to 620 Bobolink Bridge called 723 Putney.
Yeah, so 723 Putney is along here. Again, I believe it's stacked townhomes along Putney. Yep. And very, very similar to that one at 620 Bobolink between Robert Grant and Embankment. This one's between Putney and Robert Grant. And again, going through the review and resubmission process there. So still a bit of review and not yet approved on that one.
That's what they call a planned unit development.
A PUD.
A PUD. There was a cartoon in the Oakville Beaver when I was growing up called PUD.
I think I should also mention, we've had public meetings on almost all of these that we've talked about, and they're all archived on YouTube. So if you ever want to go back and get really detailed information about what's proposed, go to my YouTube channel or go to glengower.ca/development, and you will see an index of all of the development files active and archived. So lots of information if you're looking for it. And if you cannot find what you're looking for, email me.
Yeah, we usually embed the YouTube video onto the page itself on our webpage. So once that's done, you can find all the information in one spot. Last one for Fernbank for now, a familiar address to some, since we've talked about it a lot in the past year and even before that, as a different name. Now it's 5,000 Robert Grant, not 1,000 Robert Grant.
Right, so this is this is formerly 1,000 Robert Grant. It's the Lepine apartment complex. Now they have zoning approval, but they do not have site plan approval yet. So it's still going through the approval stage. They wanted to build a number of different buildings, including an 18-story apartment. And folks might remember I introduced a condition as part of the redevelopment that they cannot build that 18-story tower until Robert Grant Avenue is completed at least to Maple Grove Road. And by the time Robert Grant's completed to Maple Grove Road, it will almost certainly be completed all the way to the Queensway. So that was to mitigate some of the concerns around traffic impact. So it'll be a long time before that 18-story tower gets built, but it'll still be quite a bit before they have approval on the other aspects of their plan as well. So still going through the approval process.
Okay, we've reached just about 8 o'clock. And so those are most of the residential development applications that we have. So I didn't do a total count of the units, but we are talking about what we just covered the last hour was about thousands of units, not all being developed immediately. and none of them have been approved yet. But it's a lot of land and a lot of buildings being put up there.
Yeah, a lot of them are multi-phase developments, so they get built out over 2 to 10 years and sometimes even longer. But that's a lot of new people moving into the community, and as we've talked a lot during these Zoom sessions and so on, it just shows it's our strong economy, and people want to move to our city, and this is why there's such a huge demand. People often ask, like, where are people coming from? Why are there so many people moving here? People are moving here from the Toronto area to take advantage of a lower cost of living. People are moving here from all parts of the country for jobs, whether it's government or high tech or healthcare or whatever industry it might be. And people are coming from all over the world as well. I think, anecdotally, I'm seeing a lot of people moving here to be close to jobs in Canada North in the technology sector. And then, of course, we see young adults who are looking for their first home, whether that's ownership or rental. And we're seeing older adults is another segment we're seeing a lot of, who are looking to downsize and looking for other options. So when we're talking about townhomes or apartments, these can be really attractive places for young adults and for older adults to live in, whether they're starting out or whether they're downsizing. So it's a really dynamic market, and lots going on in real estate, as I'm sure most of our residents would know right now.
Okay, are you good for like a lightning round here, Glenn?
Well, there's one other that I don't think we covered, and because we covered the Fairwinds neighborhood, we covered Fernbank. There's also the one over here near the water tower. I forget the address of that. It's on Hazeldean Road.
I think that's 6171 Hazeldean.
I actually drew it too far. There's a small apartment being built right on the corner near the Red Barn Dental, but this other development is basically south of Potter's Key, just past the Giant Tiger, and they've proposed a 9-story apartment building and some singles and detached and townhomes, a real mixture, and some low-rise buildings on Hazeldean as well. It is, it's a refrain here, still going through the review process. So we've identified some issues, city staff have identified some issues, and they're working to resolve those and make sure the impacts are understood. And then right next to it, actually, there's a small commercial development that has been approved. There's a car wash, a like oil change type of operation, and I think it's a Starbucks at that location as well. So that's to come. And then one other, Jordan, before you go to lightning round, I don't even know what you have planned, but over on Fringewood here, Fringewood and Hazeldean, there is a Campanale property, pretty big piece of land. They're going to be building a kind of a crescent or a court with a residential subdivision. I think it's towns, maybe some semi-detached in there. And then on the corner, they've got approval or close to approval for a Shell gas station, and then probably a retail plaza as well in the future, although that's still in development.
And we should also mention, while we're in residential mode, the station building, which is at 15 on East Stittsville Main Street. Yeah. It's both 3 apartments and ground floor retail.
Yeah, absolutely. So a really important one. Right next to the new Ritual on Main, the old Heritage Building, on the other side of the Trans-Canada Trail, right around here. Combination restaurant on the bottom, some apartments behind, and a really attractive design. So they're going through kind of the later final stages of development approval on that one.
Okay, now the lightning round. I don't know how much what you covered there, but 60 Defense Street, that's a Catholic elementary school in the Fernbank area. They have a site plan approval right now going through.
Yeah, hardly even on my map, but way down here, Catholic elementary school, 60 Defense Street. Had a lot of concerns about trees.
And then 25 Wellings and 16 and 20 Cedar Road. These are retirement facilities.
Yes, so that's on Hazeldean Road. Most people will know where the Wellings is right now. So this is Huntmar and Hazeldean. The Keg is here. The Wellings is here. Wellings wants to do the next phase of their apartments right here, and then Extendicare. You've probably seen shovels in the ground. It's been approved on the east side of Wellings right here.
155 Iber. This is a warehouse on Iber Road.
It's roughly around here. Yeah, it's an existing industrial site, and they're going to be building another kind of garage storage area. That's what they've proposed. So again, going through the review process.
And then 24 Iber. This is behind the No Frills Plaza.
Yeah, this was the whole No Frills Plaza was approved a number of years ago, and they've just come back with some minor changes to reconfigure what that site is going to look like the exact configuration and size and shape of the retail. A lot of people have been asking what's going to go there. There's a number of shops and services that Huntington is in talks with. The only one that they'll confirm is there's a Starbucks that's going to be part of this development here. So all of a sudden we have a lot of Starbucks. We have 0 in Stittsville. Now there's one at Brown's. There's a new one coming over here on Hazeldean eventually, and potentially another one at Hazeldean and Iber. And yeah, so all of a sudden we fast forward 2 or 3 years from now, we might have 3 or more in the community.
And the last one I had on my list is 37 Orville.
37 Orville. So that is right over here. Come on down Orville, take a left off Stittsville Main once you hit Quitters, and down to Orville. If you've been down here, there is apartment number 1, apartment building number 2, and then phase 3 of 3. They've just applied for an extension. They were approved for that building ages ago, like years ago, might even be 8 or 9 years ago. And their approval was set to expire. So they've applied for an extension while they get all their ducks in order to actually build that apartment building. It'd be just like the other ones, 3 stories, I believe it is, kind of at Orville and Basswood.
Well, that was about exactly an hour that we went through that many. I should have kept track of how many that was, but that's a lot of development files that are going on right now. Let you catch your breath.
Yes.
Get back away from map cam. You gotta unmute your computer and then mute map cam.
All right, I'm back. Yes, and I'm losing my voice. That was a lot of talking today, and a lot of talking over the course of this evening. One other thing, Jordan, if I can stretch my voice a little longer. People have asked, what's the work going on at the Bradley Craig Barn and the Heritage House at 590 Hazeldean Road? Richcraft is committed to renovating and protecting both of those buildings. There's some remedial work going right now on the barn. They're pumping probably hundreds of thousands of dollars to do foundation repair and brick repair and repair of all the lumber and beams on the barn as well. So they are fully intending to keep that for the long term and incorporate it in some way into a future retail and office development along Hazeldean Road. So that's really good news.
I'm just muted.
Are there any other questions before we wrap it up, Jordan?
I don't
I think you're frozen,
any
Jordan.
outstanding questions or any applications we make. And if you can hear me, Glenn.
I can now. Your internet choked up there.
Okay, I can't load Facebook anymore. So we didn't have any outstanding questions as of a few minutes ago.
Okay, well, we'll check that later tonight after this is posted. But thanks to folks who've tuned in. I hope that was useful. We went through pretty high level overview, but like I said, if you go to glengower.ca/development, you will see a map, a digital map, not a whiteboard map here, but an actual digital map showing all of the active development files. And you can see archives of other public meetings that we've done and more information. And if you have any questions or need help finding what you're looking for about anything we've talked about, please send me an email and be happy to follow up.
And I'll just remind viewers about the meetings we have coming up. November 30th for 1037 Carp Road. That's the office building. December 6th for 37 Wildpine Court. Those are townhomes between Wildpine and Ravenscroft. And then 360 Bobolink Ridge on December 15. That's the 350 apartments in 4 buildings at the corner of Bobolink Ridge and Robert Grant. And then 1927 Maple Grove, TBD. Keep subscribing to the newsletter and you'll find out the information on when that one comes out for a meeting.
Great. Well, thanks, Jordan, for guiding us through tonight. And I don't know if we'll do a councillor chat before the holidays or not, but we'll see. And we'll definitely be sharing the information on Facebook and my website and email newsletter as we always do.
We're not going to do a Christmas edition?
Well, we could.
Christmas morning?
Some sleigh bells.
Talk development? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a good night, Jordan. Thanks, everybody. And take care. Bye.
Bye, everybody.